Hello, hello, and welcome to Erica on Air. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, and come chat with me. Today I have a really cool guest for you guys. This is one of my really dear friends, Sarah CANTRELL. She's from Cleveland, Tennessee, and we actually met through Instagram, right?
Yep, Instagram, 9 years ago.
Yeah, like pre-influencer days, definitely pre-podcast days. And so I didn't have a business on there, just we linked together, and it's like I started noticing her pictures. You know, I think one of the first pictures I saw was you were doing a Bible study for ladies, and it was in your kitchen, and you had the fireplace, the pine fireplace.
Yep.
And I said, that is so gorgeous. I remember messaging you and saying, it's absolutely, your home's beautiful. So we would message one another, found out we had a mutual friend, and when John Cree was adopted, it's the first time we met in person. She came to my house, her and our dear friend Danis that we share, and threw a shower for me.
Yeah, Janice was like, you have to meet my friend. And then I started following her, and then I knew she was like off the charts creative when there was a big snow in Cookville. And she posted these pictures of her little girl outside in knee-deep snow with massive ginger jars. And I was like, whoa. I was like, this is like Instagram influencer before it was even cool. I was like, she was like another level of creativity to drag those big vases out there and put that pretty little girl in front of them. I just remember being like, I have to know her. And Janice was like, well, I've always felt like y'all needed to know each other. So we made the drive to Cookville one day.
So much fun.
I had my daughter with me, and you had a brand new adopted little boy, and we met at a little tea room, and it was like an instant love.
That's what was so amazing, is because when you adopt, you feel great. You got a brand new newborn, but you're ready to go.
You rolled out of that car with a perfect baby and a perfect body, and I was like, whoa, like this is the way to do it.
Yes, that's what I tell everybody.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's cheating a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. You feel so much better. But you slowly get into that losing sleep like everybody else. It comes back for sure.
I remember my daughter was with me, and I think she was like 8 or 9, and well, she's almost 18, so she must have been 9. And I didn't even know you, and I let her spend the night with you that night, and came back and got her the next day.
It was awesome.
And my husband, who's like, you're the most protective mother on the planet, and you just left our child in Livingston, Tennessee. I was like, yeah, but you'd have to know this girl.
Guys, this is the first day we met in person.
Yes.
Though. And my husband was at work that day. And so he comes in and he says, I think it was a Wednesday, because we took her to Bible study with us. So that means in our life that we don't even get to talk till we're in bed on Wednesday nights. Life is so busy. It's grab food, get to Bible study, get back home. And so we were in bed that evening, and he said, so tell me about your friend Sarah, your new friend Sarah. And I was like, honey, she is so cool. I was talking 90 miles a minute, filling him in on everything you and I had talked about. And he said, well, I mean, she must like you if she left her daughter with us. We took her with us to family meal that night at my in-laws and everything. She was a doll baby. And she was a little girl then. That's so weird to think about. And then, and she loved babies. So she wanted to help take care of John Cree.
You let her have like full reign,
she was
diapers
like a
and swaddles.
Listen, it was my third child.
Yeah.
It wasn't the first go around. So you know how it is.
Sweet. It's a great memory for sure.
It was awesome.
And then it was on from there. We never looked back.
It was, you're exactly right. It was the second day when you come back to pick up Caroline, we got to talking, and you kind of filled me in on your story that Sarah has an incredible life. She really does have a magazine life. But I want her also, we're gonna talk about, I want her sharing with you guys. She's had the peaks and the valleys. And when you know her, that's also how she gets to share so much and so many blessings to other people, is because of some of the things you've overcame yourself. And she shared some of this with me that day, sitting on the couch in the living room. And when I got in bed that night, and my husband was saying, tell me about Sarah. And I said, babe, she has had cancer, and she's fixing to go in for her 5-year scan at MD Anderson in Houston. And she's going by herself. Now, y'all got to remember, I'm like the most sentimental, and we don't do anything without a carload full of family members. And so I was like, I just really think that I want to go with her. And he was like, go, book the ticket tonight, go with her. And so when she came out in the waiting area,
she literally met me. I was there for scans, for my 5-year scans. And we'd only seen each other one other time before. And she flew to Houston, and she took an Uber with her luggage to the MRI and CT scan place in Houston by MD Anderson. And I walked out, and there she was, smiles and hugs. And we waited a few minutes to get my results, and it was a great result. And we went to Tiny Boxwoods for lunch, and just kind of really like took off from there.
Well, you showed me Houston. I had never been to Houston.
And it just meant so much to me that someone would come that far just for me. My husband stayed back with the kids, and And I was used to kind of doing it alone, which was fine, but it was so much better to have a friend to celebrate with. I'll never forget that.
Well, I learned later because I got to know you better. Sarah actually, like, she embraces alone time too, you know,
Yes.
where I had never been that person. I'm actually kind of grown into that as I've gotten older too. But I had never been that way. To me, I would thought, you know, I wouldn't even eat at a restaurant by myself, you know. And so I was like, hey, she can't go by herself, you know. She'd been going by herself for years.
Yeah, you've caught up now. You're an extroverted introvert like me.
Yes, I was only an extrovert before, and I am learning this introvert side of it.
Yes,
For real, it is a real thing.
because we're getting older and tired.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
I think I just really need. I say it's almost like meditation. I have to have just like some quiet time
Well, when you give out a lot, you need time to sort of,
to like work
reset
things through
and
in my mind.
just
like,
be quiet and be still. And
yes,
definitely.
and I understand why he tells us that.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
Lord tells us that to be still.
Yes.
And I say that's when I get my best thinking. I work through things in my mind that I'm really like overwhelmed about or worried about or even good things like business ideas and things. I have to have that silence. And I've noticed though that that's definitely an age thing because I've had younger people come work for us, employees, and they want the music going, music videos. They
Oh,
can have
gosh,
the TV while they're studying or
A
writing a paper.
million noises. Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't wait.
I know. I
wait,
think it's
talk.
really healthy. I think it's a really healthy place to be when you can just step back and be quiet with yourself too. Because you can also really self-reflect on, I don't know, when I was younger, if something was going on I didn't want to deal with, I just kept myself really busy.
Yep.
And now I'm like, okay, what am I running from?
You're right. You're right.
Just sort of kind of go there.
I remember going to my grandparents' house and they wouldn't have a TV on. And I would be like, turn on some lights, open some curtains, you know, turn on the
Right.
TV. Let's get
They
some
could just
music
be
going.
so quiet. Yeah.
Yes. And I thought, man, they must be really bored. You know, like this is awful.
Now that sounds like heaven.
And I never turn the TV on.
I know.
TV does not go on until LG and I go in their bedroom about 9 o'clock at night to watch a show together, catch up for the day. Like we do not have a TV going. And that's definitely been a change in my life in the last 10 years.
Sure.
We were that busy go for sure too.
Yes.
But so Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself, like growing up, where you lived, and
Yeah.
going to
well,
college.
So when Erica introduces me, she says I'm from Cleveland, Tennessee. Well, I am, I guess, from there now. I've lived there for a very long time, about 26 years. But originally, I'm a very proud Texan. I always like to remind people. My husband's like, we know Texas is superior. He gives me a really hard time about it. Because I'm pretty proud of being a Texan, but was born and raised in Houston, Texas, which, you know, anywhere you're from, it so makes a lot of who you are. And so growing up in such a mega, like, multicultural global city definitely formed me in a lot of ways. And so I'm grateful for that background because I've always had kind of a global heart and like global vision, big eyes for the world and big dreamer, which being a dreamer, if you're a dreamer and you're listening, you know how it's like a double-edged sword. It's really fun to be a dreamer because you see things other people can't see, but you also feel crazy half the time because you just feel like nothing is impossible at all, ever. And my husband's a little bit more pragmatic, and he's just like, okay, well that has to be executed now. Like he's like the one that really is
The
like,
realistic
how are we
side.
going to do that? You know, so but it's okay because that makes a good team. Of course, I've grown into some of that, you know, understanding that not everything works perfectly like
Through the
you
hard
dream it.
knocks.
Yes.
Yeah, same.
But I will say that like starting to travel early on, I was in a professional Christian dance company when I was a teenager and I got to start traveling the world, Europe and Russia. And that really was like life-changing for me because I was 14 years old the first time I went on a big trip, and it changed my life. Like travel just absolutely changed my life. And I think God just gave me a heart for like his world, his like global world. And so when I think about things, I'm always kind of thinking like a large scale, which is kind of probably why I am the way that I am and wired the way that I am. But that was a huge part of my life. And then crazily enough, and when I was 17, my dad had bought a company in North Carolina, bought into a company, and I had starting to go there more with them. And I had just fallen in love with the South. I was like, okay, what are these pretty trees and mountains and hills and
Greenery.
green? I just could not, like, I never could quite recover. Every time we would leave North Carolina, I would just be like, this is beautiful. And I decided I wanted to do something that most Texas girls don't do, and that's go to college, maybe in the South. So after visiting lots of schools in the South, I felt like God led me to a private Christian school in East Tennessee called Lee University. So it was pretty clear that's where I was supposed to go. I wanted to go somewhere where I could be a leader and I could be involved in things, and didn't really know much about it, but had a few friends from Houston that went there. And so kind of dove in and never looked back.
So it was Lee University. Let's talk about the size of it compared to your high school.
Well, I went to a smaller high school, went to a
Okay,
private
you
high school.
did.
So Lee to me was actually pretty big. Back then, it was probably around 5,000 students, the
Okay.
university was, but was still small, but not, Texas schools typically are huge, but I went to a private school. But it was just so unique. It was so different. I didn't know anything about the South. I really didn't know what the culture was like. I mean, I remember getting on campus and not being able to understand people's accents. I was like, whoa, that's like so strong. Like, what is that? Texas isn't really the South. It's a different,
I
it's
agree.
different. So that was,
Memphis.
oh, yes. Yeah.
Even getting when I lived in Memphis, they would ask me to repeat stuff all the time, and
Yes.
I'm like, they would say, "Are you from Alabama?" And I'm like, "I'm from right here."
Yes.
Okay.
Just the long, drawn out words, And so Lord knew I was going to marry one of those, but I didn't know at the time. So that was, but living in a place with a new culture was exciting for me, like a small town. I'd never known that. And it was a little hard at first, but then I sort of grew into like knowing community. That was something I didn't really know what it felt like for a community to know you and do you know them.
So does that take place in a large town? Because I never grew up somewhere like
Only in
Houston
your
or-
immediate little area, but we're talking 8 million people in the city of Houston. I mean, you
didn't pass people and wave like
no,
we
you
did.
didn't go to the grocery store and see anybody you knew, and you almost didn't hear English. So,
Wow.
it was different for me when I went to college in a small Southeast Tennessee town to like see the same people, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Because I'm an extrovert and I love people, so I actually really, really enjoyed the process of being involved in a community. And as a college student, I got involved in the actual community, not just the school. So I got involved politically. That's actually how I met my husband. He's older than me, but was from the area.
Yeah.
And so that's how we met, was just in community activity.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of small towns. I think it has so much to offer, so much, because you do get those connections. I know, like, that was one thing when I first moved to Memphis that was hard because, like I was talking about, I didn't realize how much I missed passing people I knew on the road.
I tell people who've never done it, like, it's very special. And I actually am very grateful that I've had the opportunity to raise my kids in a smaller environment. Yeah. I never saw it coming for my life, and I'm so glad it happened because it was a game changer for me, just the way of living. I'm not saying it's better because I know people have their own preferences, but I've done both. And this for me was wonderful. And it was one of the reasons why I almost didn't marry my husband. I was like, I just don't know if I can really do this. And he's like, I promise I'll let you travel. And he, of course, has been so kind to kind of join on to my love of travel. Now he's fallen in love with it. But the actual day in, I mean, every time I had a baby, I couldn't believe people came to your house and brought you food. And when I went through hard things, I couldn't believe my mailbox would be full of cards and notes. Like, it just, I just had never experienced anything like it. So living in Cleveland, Tennessee has probably been one of the biggest blessings of my life, actually.
Well, I have a lot of people who follow me on my other business that will reach out and say to me a lot of times, not every small town is like that, though. There's something about it being a South small town a lot of the times.
Probably so. Our culture.
Right. And Tennessee is a huge volunteer state.
Yes.
That's how you're brought up to
Yes.
give and do for others. I mean,
Absolutely.
Whether it's in the church or not, that's just the way of living. That's what you do.
Like, one thing that I never could, I just couldn't believe, I had only ever been to a funeral for a great-grandparent. And when I married my husband, I'm not joking you, he goes to a funeral or a viewing almost once a week to this day. And I'm like, wait, how do you know so many people? And he's like, well, when you live in a small community, you know all the people that are dying too.
Our financial advisors for our businesses is in Dallas, Texas, because they're specialized to dentists, and so that's who we've used from the very beginning, my husband and I, and we budget funerals. And they're like, what? I mean, like, it's a significant amount, because if you don't plan for
Right.
it.
We do too.
And it is a lot. And so that is something that, like you said, if you're not in a small town, you don't think of, but funerals and showers,
Yes.
especially being in a small town where there's
Honoring
just a couple.
people. Honoring people. Like,
exactly.
it was a new way of seeing people honored that I had never seen.
Yes.
So I've loved that part.
But you get to do the best. You get to do both worlds, and so
Yes.
that works out.
Yeah, it's
that
been
works
fun.
out good for sure. So you got married. Tell us about getting engaged.
Yeah. So my husband is from the region. He's 5.5 years older than me, and we met in working in politics and in community events, and we kind of had a long drawn out pursuit, but it ended up working out for both of us, and so we got married. It'll be 20 years in October. And yeah, we had a great engagement. We got engaged at President George W. Bush's second inauguration.
I love this story.
Which was really cool. And our very good friend at the time, the Congressman Zach Wamp, he was a huge part in our love story, and he organized our engagement during the inauguration, which was really cool and very unexpected. I actually didn't see it coming. I thought we were just going up there for the inauguration, and he actually planned a private Capitol tour of the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol. It was actually the day before the inauguration, which the Capitol was closed, but he worked with the Capitol architects and surprised our families, and we were like up in the very, very top, which my husband, who, all by the way, is 6'8", a huge man, he's extremely scared of heights. And I was like, I cannot believe he's okay with this. And he had a suit on. I couldn't figure out why he was wearing a suit. He was like so dressed up. And we get to the top, very top, and it's snowing outside, and everyone kind of disappeared. And I turned around, and he was on his knee, proposing to me on top of the Capitol building with the snow. It was really precious and
Yeah, it's such a
beautiful
cool
and
story.
memorable. Yes. So that
Were
was
both your parents there?
my parents weren't able to be there, but his parents were there, and some of our friends
Okay.
were there. So it was great because we got to go to the Texas ball and the Tennessee ball, and both the best of both worlds. Texas meets Tennessee.
That's so awesome. That's so
Yes,
awesome.
It was pretty awesome.
We have a pretty cool story too about the Bushes together. That trip in
Oh my
Houston
gosh,
was-
nothing
ended
will
up being
ever
epic.
compare.
It was so epic. So when I went to meet her at the doctor that we were talking about earlier for her checkup, she got that great news to start with, and we went and grabbed like lunch early,
Yes.
and then
At
we
Amalfi,
we
yes.
did a couple little shops, and we were like both exhausted. I mean, I had left the house at like 3 a.m. And so we were exhausted, went to the room. If you know me, I love a good nap. And so we go back to the room, and instead of resting, we sit and talk and talk and talk, and we don't even make our dinner reservations. We just talk. And did we end up ordering room service?
I think so,
I think we did
yes.
too, and just talked like pretty much all night, catching up. So the next day, we caught up on going and seeing some stuff in Houston and eating. And we're eating at this like incredible restaurant, Amalfi, right?
Yes. Yep.
Amalfi, and yeah, and so the chef was like, "Y'all are coming back tomorrow too, right?" And we're like, "I don't know. We got to get some places." Although the food was so good, I mean, we wanted to be back. And so he told us, "Yeah, you're going to be back at this certain time," and we ended up eating lunch with President Bush and his wife.
And his wife, and James Baker, Secretary Baker.
I still can't get
So
over
we
it.
had a little heads up on it, though, because the chef was like, President George H. Bush, this is his favorite restaurant, and they're going to go see Cinderella at the Wortham tomorrow. Y'all should come by, and I'll seat you with them. And so he was in a wheelchair, and they wheeled him in, and we just kind of waved at him at first, and then at the end of the lunch,
waved us on over.
waved us on over to take photographs with him, and he was just a living doll, and so was Barbara, and they could not have
Yeah.
been kinder. And it was each of us, my friend Amber and Erica and myself, we were all able to personally with our mouth thank him for serving our country.
Oh, I mean, like
it was,
he was in his wheelchair and we were hugging him like he was my grandpa.
yes, holding his hand. All the pictures are so precious. It was once in a lifetime for sure.
It truly was. And this was 2016, and it was the week before the presidential election when President Trump was elected the first time.
Yes, it was.
To place it, and it was a remarkable trip. I remember texting my husband like under the table, and I was like, "You're never going to believe what I'm doing," and he was in the middle of a root canal, and in a little bit he looks at his phone and he said, "What?" And I said, "I'm having having lunch with the president." And he was like, "Are you on Air Force One? Where are you?" He always says that when I'm gone. He was like, "I never know where you're going to
I
be."
know,
He was like, "You're always going to be talking to someone, meeting someone."
It was really special.
But it was just
Really special.
it just all worked out, and it was one of those that we like will always remember, and we got incredible pictures from it. And
I got to thank him, and I remember how sharp and witty Barbara was. She was funny. It was fun to get to see her as well.
I learned something that day. I didn't realize that the president and the first lady never ride together. Remember
forgot
they were
about that.
telling us
Yeah.
they had to ride separately.
Separately, yes, that's right, for safety reasons.
And they both have their own security and their own
Yep.
forever
That's right.
afterwards. So, yeah, that was interesting that day to see that. So, all three of those people came in separate vehicles with their own bodyguards and detail.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was, but I mean, they must have been used to it because we just were right up there like his grandpa, and they didn't ever step in.
I
So,
know. That was
but
so great.
it
Yeah.
was so cool. So you and Jonathan get married, and like you said, you've been married 20 years. So let's talk about. I want you to share with everyone about starting. What year was it when you got married?
We got married in 2005, and we knew we didn't want to wait very long if it was God's will to have children. So we got pregnant with Caroline, our daughter, in 2006. Had her in 2007.
Okay.
A perfect little girl, and she's just been such a delight. And
Had you already started your house at this point?
no, we had not started
Okay.
building our
Okay.
home yet. We were living in our first house, and our business, we're in the paving industry, so we do a lot of commercial and city streets, and it's a legacy business. My husband's grandfather started the business. Our business was really growing and rocking and rolling. It was it was a really exciting time in life to be freshly married and our business growing and to have a little perfect baby girl.
And you were how old
come along.
then?
I was 27 when I had her. 25 when I got married. 27 when I had her. So, and
I feel
actually,
like that's the age that we could actually, because I got married at 20, actually breathe and go on a date. Like what money was so tight with us when we first got married, we were both in college, no income, both in school. So the stresses when you first got married then was totally different. So that sounds like magical to get married and both already have incomes.
yeah, it was actually it was a good era for sure. And we just felt so blessed, to have this perfect little baby girl. And actually, kind of a backstory on that, I actually wasn't sure if I wanted children. I was never extremely maternal, never really babysat a lot, was kind of the last one at a shower to hold a baby. I don't know why. I really had hoped to have a bigger career. That was sort of my dream. But when I met my husband, and if you ever interview my husband, everyone will know he's just like a giant teddy bear and a lover. And I thought,
is.
well, if I choose to marry him, I'm going to have at least one. And so that really was all I had on my mind, was maybe I'll just have one. And then when I had one, I fell in love with her so much that it was like I was made for it. I just didn't even know. I didn't know I would love it like I did. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I know it doesn't happen for everyone. And my heart aches for that for some. But for me, I fell in love with motherhood, and so everything else kind of went to the side for me at that point. I was like, I'm just going to focus on this if I can. So
That you recognize that too.
yes,
Because I think some people told back and forth between the career life and motherhood, and you can have both.
Yes, you
but
can.
It's important to look inside and see what do I really want right now, and what's going to be best overall for my family. Where should I be?
I just was so shocked that I loved it like I did. I didn't see that coming. I've loved it so much. I was like, let's do it again, So I really wanted another little girl. It's so funny. I was like loving having a girl, and I'm from girls. So my husband's from boys, but we ended up getting pregnant again and had a little boy in 2009, Caldwell. And now little boys capture my heart because they're just something. People say it. There's something about a boy and their mom, and it is true. It is true. So I had 24 months apart, and just kind of the boy, the girl, starting to build our home. And it was a really busy time in our life, but a fun time. So things just felt like they couldn't get any better. Like when I called to tell my dad I was having a boy, I remember him thinking, wow, he's like, everything's perfect.
Yeah.
You get the boy, you get the girl, they're healthy. Sarah, like, do you realize?
Starting to build your home, your
starting
dream
to build our
home.
dream home at a pretty young age. Like it was quite a season. And a lot of that, I still look back on those early years, 20 years ago, and it just, I don't know, like I can't believe like how the time has quickly passed and all that happened in those few years, having children, getting married, all the things.
It's so true. The days are so slow and the years are so fast.
Yeah, and just how much I've grown as a person too. Like kind of my thinking when I think back now to what I was like emotionally, like I've just how much more maturity when you start going through things that are harder. Because the hard stuff started hitting
Where you grow.
after that. After that season is kind of when we started to have some valleys.
Well, and so still in this peak that she's in. So they buy a large portion of land in Cleveland, Tennessee, and turn it into their own private gated neighborhood. Gorgeous. It's like a little mini blackberry farm. It is. It's really gorgeous. You'll have just a few pieces of property left in there, right?
Yep.
And it's a gated area and just gorgeous. The marble stone walking in, and I just love it. everything
you're
about
so
it.
kind.
Just,
It's been a true. It was such a creative passion and a vision for us to do that, and we were kind of ahead of our time for our region. Like we were doing like a kind of a luxury property situation that had never been done, and we took some flack for it. And people kind of were like, "You'll never, this will never work."
recover.
And it just, and we just kind of went all in. And that's the dreamer in me. And then my husband at the time, our business was growing so rapidly, and he saw the vision for the future. Well, what we didn't really see coming was the 2008 crash. And my husband had never been through one. I mean, he was a young businessman. He took a legacy business that had completely died and just used the name to revive it. He had rebuilt a company. So that was his first, and most seasoned business people that I've talked to have been through many. So that was the first one. And we had built this house and this development, and we're hoping to sell it and turn this great profit. And so everything happened in '08, and everything just sort of stopped. And we were like, whoa, this isn't fun to have a project like this, and then it just stops. But you know what? We were like committed to being faithful and finishing the dream if it was going to be God's time and his way. And so we just have waited for the right people.
slow down and stay on course.
Yeah,
the whole
stay the
time.
course and wait for the right people. And over time, little by little, we have just sold properties to the most magnificent neighbors. You've met most of them. You know all of them, actually. And it's been worth the wait. Sometimes it doesn't look exactly the way that we plan it, but I feel like God always has a better way and a better timing for things. His timing is the best.
Always. It's so
So-
hard for us to see.
We learned a lot too. And one thing that my husband and I always say is really focus on, like, if you ask me what we do it again, probably not. But at the end of the day, we've gotten to raise our children there, and it's been really sweet. But one thing my husband and I say is really focus on doing what you know and do it well.
Right.
And so, not that you shouldn't be creative and jump outside the box, but I do think there's a lot to be said for taking your gifting and what you're really good at and just really focusing on that.
My husband says
So-
the same thing. I'm a little too ADHD for that. Like, I'm a dreamer like you, and he's the realist, and I've got a different business in my mind every day, and he has to be the one the same way. And he
Right.
says the same thing. He's like, I just want to be the very best Dennis that I
Yes.
can be.
Yes.
And that's where he wants to stay on course, Now, he'll throw me to try whatever. He's back there supporting me, but he wants to stay on course also. But
And not everyone is made to be the big dreamer and do crazy things. Like, I think there's a lot to be said for living simply. And I actually, when you're a dreamer like me and you feel crazy sometimes, I look at simple living and simple life and I'm like, gosh, what a joy. And so I find myself falling more into that as I get older because, there's a lot coming at us in the world, lots of ideas, lots of things. Sometimes it's just really overwhelming.
Overstimulating.
Yes, absolutely. And hard to know what to do and what's the right thing. And so I think you have to really monitor sometimes all that you're taking in and making sure you're doing what's best for you and for your family.
Right. And I know, so we're talking about her peak and then just starting to go into a valley. And I love to share with y'all. I've told you that people who have enriched my life and I think has something to offer you. And I just think Sarah's got so many stories that are so good to offer you guys through all of this. But when I'm in these situations, when I was younger, I was willing, I didn't think about sacrifice. I didn't think about the money. You just go for it. You don't really have anything to lose. So why not? And I think that we might not would do it now, like you said, looking at it now, because we do see see the options, and we also see what could happen, and you don't see that then.
Right.
You're only, and that there's something to be said for that. That's good. It's good
Right.
for young adults to be able to go for things and not be so scared of the outcome. I never want to hold them back,
of
because
course.
I remember when my husband and I wanted to go for building our dream business, and it was some of the older people who were telling us this won't work. And we had a few that did believe in us, and that's all it took, just to hear it
Absolutely.
we needed to hear it from someone that was a mentor that we trusted. You can do this,
Absolutely.
And so I know there's so many young people out there that's got great vision for things, that's going to do amazing things. Sometimes don't second guess it too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And overall, we don't second guess that total thing because we know that there's a reason why.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say that the '08, crash for a small business owner who'd never been through one, that was definitely a valley, and God kept us, and I'm so grateful for that. But what was amazing was that next, really the crash for us really kind of started to really hit in like 9 and 10. That's when we really kind of started to feel it. And then in 11, we were so excited because I had fallen in love with motherhood. And I was like, okay, if I'm loving one, then, in 2 and 3 would be better. And so in 2011, we found out that we were expecting identical twin boys. And we were just, it's like the economy was terrible, but this was the best news we could possibly imagine. I mean, what's better than
Sitting at home with your babies.
yeah, and growing
family.
a dream family, So I remember when I called my husband, he actually didn't go to the appointment with me because this was our third. And
Yeah.
when they said there's 2 in there, I just about lost my mind. And I called my husband. He just hung the phone up and got on his face and was like, God, do you really love me this much that you would lavish me with 2 more? And they were identical twin boys. We knew right away that they were little boys. And so that just absolutely was like the wind in our sails. It was such a breath of fresh air for a hard season, and we just could not believe it. So, but early on in that pregnancy, we did kind of notice that something wasn't quite right with one of the babies. And so I was into my 20th week and really hoping and praying that things were going to turn out. And as the weeks went by, I was feeling pretty good. And then one day I did not feel any movement, and I had already gotten pretty big, and we had named them, and the nursery was done, and everything was ready. We were trying to get to 30 weeks for delivery, knowing that one might have some problems. And so I was really concerned one day, and I had an appointment the following day, and I told my husband, I said, I really have a bad feeling. I feel like something's really wrong. And he just was like, no, you're just, nervous because this is a high-risk pregnancy. And I just kind of had a feeling, Erica. I just kind of knew something wasn't right. And so, unfortunately, that next day, we found out horrible news that both babies had passed. And it was definitely, it's like I felt a little bit prepared, but it was definitely like the heartbreak of my life. It was just such a huge, sad disappointment. But I don't know. It's like God prepared me for it. I was heartbroken, and it didn't even hit me until months later, even a year later. But I trusted God with it. I was like, you created these babies. You knew what would go wrong, that my body would fail. We can't control everything. And so I had to deliver him that evening, and it was a very holy night for me. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to have carried them as long as I could. And what was kind of really like the game changer for me was coming home empty-armed to my little girl, Caroline, who was, at the time 4. And she was like, Mom, where are John Wilson and Cass? Where are our babies? And I really didn't know what I was going to tell her because I knew she was going to ask. And she was the one that really changed my view on it, because she was like, Mom, she was like, where are the babies? And I said, Caroline, I don't know why, but some babies God takes to heaven early. And she put her little hand on her heart and she said, Mom, he picked you. And so her little revelation as a child was that it wasn't a punishment. It's that they get to go to heaven and be raised by the Lamb of God.
Which is
so,
true.
Yeah. And so it changed. She's like, you're going to see them one day. This was a 4-year-old telling me this. And so it really revolutionized even my relationship with God through a 4-year-old. And so it was hard. It was definitely the worst year of my life, and the grief. And, a lot of people forget about the dad too, because just the mom is the one who carries them. But there's a daddy too, right? And so it was hard on my husband. It was hard on our marriage.
And they feel like they have to keep you together too.
Yes,
There's
they
a lot
do.
of pressure on them.
But that was also a time when my community showed up for me that I just to this day, it makes me want to cry, because I couldn't believe the love and the outpouring, the cards and the notes and the just the love. I'll never forget it. So that was definitely a low place. And as the years, they would have been 14 this October. And we still talk about them, and we still speak of them as though they had been a part of our family, what that would have been like. I was real honest with my kids as they grew every year on the birthday. And it's been amazing, because I've been able to be there for other families that have gone through infant and, loss, whether it be after or during utero. And so, I'm grateful to have that strength that God gave me to be able to say, this is really, really hard, but you can make it through. And at least where they are,
And selfishly, we pray for God's will.
Yeah.
The whole time. And selfishly, we want our will.
Yes.
But we have to be reminded that, and I say all the time, God, thank you for letting me have these 3 kids of yours, because they're His.
Yeah.
my kids are his. I mean, he just lets us borrow them for a little while, and it's so true, that there's just that short time that's here, and God decided He needed them early.
Yep.
Like
And
Caroline said.
yeah, and I really though I actually really thought he would give me more. And a lot of people get that rainbow baby story, and I didn't. And that's something that's still hard for me sometimes because I'm like, gosh, like some people they get to hold up the picture on Instagram that says this is my rainbow baby, and I really thought that would happen, and that just hasn't been His will for our family. But I've had to be grateful, and the reason why we didn't, and just to kind of go on with my story, was I was trying to have another baby. And it just wasn't happening. And I was like, this is a little frustrating, but, I trust you, God. And my husband and I had been invited on a mission trip to Thailand and Cambodia with People for Care and Learning in Cleveland, Tennessee. And it was a big trip to take when you've got little kids at home, but we really felt like we were supposed to go. It was the longest we'd ever left our family. And on that trip, I had a little spot on my arm that was bleeding. And I had read somewhere, like, if something on your body bleeds, you definitely need to get it looked at. So when we got back from the trip, I told my husband, I need to get this looked at. And so never in a million years with my dark, dark eyes and dark skin and dark complexion did I think it would be stage 3C melanoma. And it was a terrifying diagnosis because anytime you hear the word melanoma, it's pretty scary. And I was like, okay, this is not good. I've been trying to get pregnant. I could be pregnant right now. And it ended up that I wasn't, and that I immediately was headed off to MD Anderson in Houston for treatment and surgery and to see if we could make sure I was going to make it. And so it was a really horrible, it was a really big whirlwind and a really hard year. And I literally, Erica, it was 1 year to the twins' first birthday that I was going into surgery at MD Anderson. And I mean, I remember waking up that morning and thinking, it was a low moment. I was like, is this really my life?
Why me? Why do I keep
Yeah, and I went from, you gave me everything, to I feel like I don't even know if I'm going to live. It had been in all of my lymph nodes, and we had no clue of the future. I had 2 babies at home, 2 in heaven. The economy's shaky. I'm in Houston away from my family. I have to do all these surgeries and treatment. I was 32 years old, so young, walking around MD Anderson. And that in itself is a humbling experience because you realize, I mean, I had no clue about anything with cancer. Hasn't really run in our family. When you get to a place like MD Anderson, you see that cancer has, I mean, it can take anyone.
And it affects
so many
every
people.
family.
Yeah, and I had the bracelet on my arm and a head full of hair. I didn't have to do chemo. I had to do other kinds of treatments. But I'm looking completely normal, but I'm really just like everyone else there. There for a reason, to try to stay well and to get well. So it was very humbling, and it changed the core of who I was, because I no longer heard the word cancer when someone asked for a prayer request or talking about somebody in their family. It was serious to me because it was me. I would be driving down the road thinking, am I going to be able to see my children grow up? I had no answers, so.
And they took it very serious too. They checked you really regularly, didn't they?
Yes. Oh, I went every 3 months for 3 years, and then I was able to kind of go down less and less, and I've been released since then. Thank God. I've had no reoccurrence or any issues as of now. But even that experience in MD Anderson was God even used that because I had an opportunity I was strong and I was brave. And that's because of God, but I would go a lot alone because our kids were just so little, and Jonathan would stay back with them, and I would fly to Houston, which is my hometown, and I would take myself to my scans and then take myself to the appointments, and I would meet people in waiting rooms and have the opportunity to maybe be stronger for them if they weren't strong, And in the very beginning, there were people that did that for me. So even when I closed that chapter of the visits there, I was a little bit sad. And that sounds crazy, but I had so many divine interactions during that era, for years, that were very, very special. I'm friends with these people on Instagram and Facebook. I still keep in touch with some of the people that I met. And I just remember every scan, every appointment, every surgery, feeling God so close, in a way I had never felt. And that's when I'm like, He doesn't leave us.
Right.
So
when my husband and I were in dental school, we volunteered at St. Jude all 4 years, every other Tuesday night. And then I also cleaned teeth at St. Jude's Dental Clinic our 3rd year we were there. And it was one of those moments for me. When you're right in the face of it, you think you're having a bad day because you failed an exam or you got a flat tire and you're wondering, how are we going to pay for this and get the groceries? Or how are we, this is the young college life stresses. And then you show up there and
That's real stuff.
It's the real stuff. And you'll grow up really quick.
Yes.
As my granny says, you put your big girl panties on
Yeah.
and you go in there and you love on a kid that just got done with treatments all day long, and the parents. That's who I ached for. I ached for the parents, that was there. So St. Jude has a house called Target House. It's by the Target company that sponsors it, and several musicians also sponsor it. And so that's where we would go. It was for long term, so that the full families would be there, and they would do their school there because they couldn't go to public schools and everything. And so we'd go in and feed them supper every other Tuesday night and play games with them. And I'm like you. That was one thing about leaving Memphis I missed the most. And it was one of the hardest things we did. But it was one of those moments in life that shaped me a little different. It made Erica a little different from then on after the experiences we had. And we came back and built our dental practice, and we would hang up the artwork from the kids that we'd saved through the years, because it was a resemblance to us. It was always that reminder of what are we really doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you ever think you're having a bad day? All you got to do is look around, and there's someone having one worse.
My husband always says there are real problems,
That's
and
right.
today's probably not a real problem. It's something you can work through. I'm not diminishing people's issues, but you're right. There's always something much harder.
There is. But I like to share because your life's wonderful now. The kids are doing awesome. They love their school. The kids both go to Baylor. But I know you. I know your story. You know my stories. And I think it's real important for people. They see just a superficial side of people's life through social media, especially these days. And that's one thing I've been so excited about having the podcast about, is because in my business, I feel like that it's very much that way.
The
It's
highlight reel.
advertisements,
Right. And
and
highlights.
it's and a picture. And I don't feel like that the people really get to know you. That
Yes.
they don't know me. They follow my pictures, but they don't really know me. In the podcast, this is me. I can say anything I want,
Yes.
And so I can share who I want on here. And that's what I want to do. I want to share people that I feel like it's just really shaped. And you're one of those people. And it's good for people to see that, yeah, your life is absolutely wonderful now. But it's had some hard times.
And there may be hard things to come. And that, my son has a little basketball injury right now, and he's really struggling with it. And one of the things he asked me the other day was, Mom, this is so hard for me. He was like, tell me some of the hardest things you've been through. And I had to remind him. And I said, this is the thing. Life has lots of hard things. And anybody who just looks at the highlight reel, you're not really thinking, because behind all of that are the real things in life, So, I love life and I love people. Like, my family jokes because I am a true extrovert, and I literally wish I could know every single person on planet Earth. And my husband's like, oh my gosh, we aren't even good friends to the ones we have. Why do you want to know everyone? But it's genuinely a gratefulness and a thankfulness for life. And I think that, we always have heaven to look forward to, but I do think that there's life abundant on earth, and that's relationships, and that's people more than anything, not stuff. It's people.
It's 100% people. It's
all,
relationships.
yeah, it's all people.
right.
And so anything that I put out there that's exciting, it's because I am so grateful and I love my life. And I never really question when people put a lot of the crazy stuff out there that maybe looks like it's over the top or too much, because I'm like, good for them. That's so fun, right? But I do love knowing the human side of people's lives. And so I'm not ashamed at all to share mine, because it's the real thing. And I'm happy and grateful to even be standing, to be strong. But I can't say there haven't been some really dark times. And I know there will be more. One thing I tell young people, now that I feel like I'm older, is when you're choosing to marry someone, if you feel like you're supposed to be married, make sure you marry someone that you can suffer with.
Right.
It's not all
You're right.
butterflies and all the things.
Rainbows,
You need to pick somebody that truly can suffer with you. And I know that sounds kind of grim, but I don't know that I would have survived without somebody who was like, I'm here with you,
Yeah.
So that's just my little tidbit of dating advice.
Okay, guys, her husband is, I fit, and I'm usually in platform heels. Today, I think I'm in like 5-inch platform heels, but I fit under his underarm.
He's a big guy. He's just a big teddy bear, though.
He is a huge teddy bear, but he is small town like myself, we're both always joking. We both can appreciate a good fried bologna
Oh
sandwich.
my gosh, I didn't even know what that was.
You didn't know what it was. He come to my house and I said, "Come on, Jonathan. I got all the flavors of Pop-Tarts in the pantry. I got fried bologna sandwiches." They had Whole Foods at their house. And when you live in a small town, there's not a Whole Foods nearby. I will say I have matured lately, and I'm trying to do a little better.
You're so funny.
Eat a little better, grow our
My kids
own.
love coming to your house because you have good snacks,
Not good tasting. They just have good tasting, but yeah, it is. We've all got to watch out. But Jonathan and I do appreciate a good fried bologna sandwich and some Captain D's every now and then.
And Long John Silver.
Small
and
town
whatever.
living. Yes, we both share stories. When we get together, we can understand each other. We share stories about the ball bus and small town basketball and
Football
cheerleading
games and riding. Yeah.
yeah, it's so fun to reminisce on all of it. So, how now your children? Tell us how old your children are now currently.
Yes, so my daughter Caroline will be 18 next month, and my son Caldwell will be 16. So I'm in a whole new era. Like my son will start driving in July, and it's a new era for me because for someone who's loved motherhood so much, not that you're not a mother when they start driving and grow up, but you just start feeling that slipping away.
Adult parenting is different.
Yeah, and just that time with them. As soon as my daughter started driving, it was less and less time with her. And I've seen them grow really close because my son's dependent on his sister for a ride. But now it's like everyone's growing up and becoming more independent, which is what you want for them. But for me, it's I'm not gonna lie, it's a little scary for me. I have loved motherhood so very much. And I feel like there's a new season coming that's on the horizon. I don't really know what it looks like. And I don't even know what to do. I just am like, okay, like what's kind of the next thing that I'm supposed to put my time and my heart and my passions into? So I'm exploring a lot of that right now. I'm praying about a lot of that because life is changing.
Right.
And as my kids start leaving in the next year, I know it's going to look different.
Right. What do you think's been like the hardest part of parenting?
For us, for our home, it's just for us, it's been the culture is so different from the culture that I grew up in general, and wanting my kids to stay true to their values in a culture where everyone is doing whatever they want. And so hoping that I can encourage them to stay true to their family values, but knowing that I don't really have that much power or control over it. That's probably been the hardest. And those are the things that I think only with encouragement and praying for them, that's all you can really do, because they are living and growing up in a totally different world. And it's going to change and evolve, I think, even more than we can imagine. You think when everything's been thought of, a podcast, but this is going to be totally different in 5 years. So that's probably been the hardest for me, is how they're going to kind of survive and thrive in a culture that's so different than what we know even right now.
Right. I feel like that too. I also feel like encouraging them to be their own.
Yes.
Never do, be the leader.
Being
Do
okay
not
to
be the
be
follower.
set apart.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to see that at our age looking back.
Yes.
But in that moment, that's so hard for them. And I think that's been my hardest part of parenting, is to see their side in that.
Right.
Because
I
I'm
agree.
like, no, don't do that. Everyone else is doing that.
Right.
Be your own. Who cares?
A lot of times kids don't want to be different from everyone. You're immature and you want to be like everybody else. And it's hard to see yourself doing something different. And that's actually a good thing, to be different.
Right. You're right. And it is. They are almost in that phase where they're growing up, don't know who they want to be, and they want to just kind of hide in what everyone else is doing also. Right. So do you believe in luck, fate, coincidence? Do you believe in that? Like, do you think it was luck that we met? Do you think it was fate?
I think it was divine. I think it was divine connection. I believe that everything has a purpose and a reason.
I do too.
It's just what I believe. And there are no, even the hard things we go through, even our sin, the things that we struggle with, like God takes all of that and he teaches us, especially if we can be humble enough to be like, well, I'm not perfect. And I don't know. I just think that there's a reason for everything.
Right. I do too. And that's when we grow the most.
Yes,
Is through those valleys.
Yes.
And you do not see that in your early 20s.
No, you
do
don't.
not think that.
I wish
you're
you
scared
did.
to death of the valleys, but the more God gets you through them and you see what you learned from that one and how that one shaped you a little bit different and helped you more for a different
Yes.
situation, you don't dread them as much because you know He's got me.
Yeah, I think that's why you see older, established people who seem unshakable and movable. It's just because they've lived so long and hard, and they've been through so much that they are unshakable. And I hope as I grow in age that that's the most important thing to me, is that my faith and my value and who I am stays secure. I hope that for my family as well.
Right. So, like in your day-to-day life, and we all know it's just hustle and bustle and businesses and running the kids here and there. Where is it that you find the most peace? Like at what point in the day you think that you're like, this is where I find my peace?
Well, like you were saying earlier, I have become more of an extroverted introvert, just a quiet space. I do a lot of walking. In the past 2 years, I've spent a lot of time not doing as much fast cardio and just walking and enjoying nature, enjoying the old people things.
No joke,
You know what I mean?
I talked to my flowers.
Yeah, I really enjoy being alone and being quiet. It's very important for me now, especially with the way, I think I was telling my husband last night, I don't remember life being as crazy and as busy as it is now when I was my children's age. I think the world has gotten a little bit out of control and our culture is crazy, and we've all bought into it, including myself. But it's almost worn me out. And so I've had to really take some steps back and just go deep breaths and take time just to be still. I'm still not excellent at it. I would like to get better at it, honestly, being more restful and more mindful of taking time just to be slow and still. I am really, really trying to work at it, but it's hard because,
You don't think there's time to be
even my
still.
son's injury, we always play AAU basketball. We've been gone for 7 years every weekend. I mean, it's crazy. And this is the first time we haven't been gone every weekend in 7 years, and we are loving it.
Yeah.
I hate it for him that he's injured, but everyone's loving the rest.
Yes.
So I have to say, just being still when I can.
Right. I think that is so important. I think it's important too to find out what that is for you, to find what it is that gives you that time to get things and get peaceful and get peace in your life, no matter what the age is, but finding out what that is that works for you. For me too, it's like journaling.
Okay.
I like if I can get it out
Yeah.
on paper.
I like that. I wish I was better at that.
That no one else would understanding. It's just for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not writing a book or anything, and sometimes I'm just jotting down little things throughout the day. But for me, that's one of mine. But my favorite time of the day is hands down about 6 o'clock when everyone's home from ball practices and school, when dinner is done and we all get to go sit at the table together. And there's times we don't leave the table till 8:30 at night.
That's wonderful.
We'll be like, oh my goodness, guys, it's almost bedtime, just because time gets away from you and just spending time talking and what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? That's what I encourage some of you younger parents too, start that early. Start though. I'm a huge proponent to eating as a family around the table, but ask your kids, what happened today? What was the best part of your day? What was the worst part? Say that at the dinner table, and get your children comfortable talking to you and talking as a family and knowing that they can do that. That's brought out some of the coolest conversations with us.
Yes.
Just to see what's going on in their world that we wouldn't even know.
Yes.
You
And,
know?
and also playing and having fun. And our family we like to laugh, and my husband has a really jolly, fun personality. And so I have found we have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And laughing and
That's the best
playing
thing.
and being playful, and that makes a closeness. If you can take the time, kids really want to be known, and they want to know you more than you think. My daughter, poor thing, she's like, Mom, every guy I know is so boring, and I'm like, it's because your dad is so fun. She likes to laugh, and she's an introvert, so she's liking that, being entertained.
Right, right. And I don't think that changes. My husband and I went on a date weekend this weekend, and he looked up a new place. We'd love to go to a shooting range or go do something that we call like a game, together. And this weekend he had found this place in Nashville called Putt Shack. if you've
Oh, I've heard of it,
it.
like an indoor putt-putt place.
Yes, it's got like a restaurant in it and everything. We
Fun.
had the best time.
How
We were
fun.
just, two little high schoolers. I told him, I said, this is taking me back to when we were in high school and I would go with your family to Gatlinburg.
Remember when we went bowling at the Kentucky Derby at the
That
Omni
was
Hotel?
so
that was
fun.
fun.
That was so
That was a
fun.
rainy day. We were,
It was
yeah, that was
awesome.
fun.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is true. There's a little part of you never grows up, and you don't need to let it.
Yes, I agree.
Don't let it. Stay young.
Don't get so serious. There's enough
Yes.
seriousness things you have to deal with,
There has. So you've told us you love to travel the world. You love to see places and everything.
Yes.
As a family, what has been your favorite place to go that you've traveled? Like
So
with the kids, not just as
It's so crazy. We have done a good bit of global travel, but we have had two great. We say this all the time. Like, what have been some of our, now that Caroline's almost 18, like, what are some of your best family memories for travel? We loved the Grand Canyon and seeing Zion National Park and Lake Powell. We did that trip, like, I think 5 years ago. And it was probably our best family trip we'd ever done. We'd done it with
Really?
some family friends and just seeing a different part of America. Our own country, there's so many places to see that I still have yet to see. So that was probably a highlight of their childhood, was seeing those national parks
do you think it was the place, or do you think it was getting to do it with friends?
I think doing it with friends, having the memories and doing it on a scale. We did like old school Americana, like old hotels that had keys. The kids were like, wait, there's a hotel that has a key and not a key card. Like, we did some really neat things. And so that was definitely a highlight trip. And then this fall we did Boston and Maine, and the kids, because they both have had American history. And so they're, it's so fun when your kids get older because they're smart and they could understand things. And so that was probably another highlight destination for our family. So our trips in the States have really been some of our best trips for sure.
Right. I say that the adult parenting has been the hardest for me. Adult parenting has been the hardest, but it's been the most fun.
It's so much fun.
I love it. I mean, they're my friends. I cannot wait to pick Anna Berkeley up from school in the afternoon. She's my 13-year-old best friend. I want her with me. I want to tell her something that happened that day. I can't wait to hear about something that happened with her. And I want Green home as soon as practice is over. But he's in high school, so we can text throughout his day. So he and I stay in touch throughout the entire day. But it is so nice seeing them grow into their own and just have that little relationship with you. And like you said earlier, they are so close to each other.
Yes. Yes, they and you can have such great, like, real conversations with them that matter, and they still are listening, whether they act like they are not. They are. They're listening to you, and so I'm always like kind of crazy. I'm like the crazy mom that's trying to cover all the bases. So sometimes I bring up crazy topics and they're like, "Mom," and I'm like, "No, you need to hear this from me."
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it's kind of fun to embarrass them and make them uncomfortable, privately.
I feel like mine always has someone over. We live so close to the high school. It's kind of like the stop and go, which I
Yes.
love.
Yes,
love
that's
it.
so fun.
But there's never just 5 at the dinner table. There's
great.
always 6 to 8 usually. They've
That's
got a
wonderful.
friend or someone that's over, and so it's kind of neat getting to see. And we've had several over in there, like, my family does not do this. They eat in their room alone every night because
Right.
it's just what they got used to. And
It's exciting for other kids to see the way people live.
It is. It is.
So that's a fun thing about having teenagers and letting other teenagers be a part of your life and your teenagers being a part of, because they can see the way different families are and lives are. So we've had at Baylor in Chattanooga, we have boarders that are from all over the world, and so we kind of took in a young man that played basketball at Baylor. He's from Lithuania, and just a great young man. And it's been a great experience for my kids to see a guy that moves to the United States at 15 years old by himself. And he is like in love with the United States and an excellent basketball player. He's going to be playing at Indiana Wesleyan. And it's been a great experience for us to learn about his culture.
Right.
And him learn about ours.
So did you meet his parents and everything?
He's a single mom, and she wasn't able to come to graduation last weekend. We did a graduation party for him at our townhouse in Chattanooga on Sunday. And he's probably one of the most thoughtful and grateful young men I've ever met, who is just very grateful for the support and the love. And he's got a great future ahead of him because he has a great attitude.
Right.
So that's been cool for our family.
He has to be so mature.
Very mature, very self-sufficient. And what's neat, though, because he's like, I love your country. And that's amazing to hear, because there's a
take
lot
it
of
for
people that are
granted.
negative about our country, and he's like, there's nothing like it, and I hope I'll be able to stay here.
We take it for granted.
Yes,
A lot
we
of
do.
people do, for sure. So you're 44 right now, 45.
45. Can't believe it.
Yeah, just turned 45. 1 year ahead of me. And like, is there anything? I know you're like me. You're a dreamer, and we both tell each other all the time. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking there's something I'm supposed to do in the future. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Don't know where I'm going to live. Don't know.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you know that you've always wanted to do and you've still not tried?
I don't know exactly. I have a couple of passions and things that I enjoy. I used to think it was in the political arena. I don't know about that now. I hope it's not.
Yeah.
Now I'm putting it on film, so it'd probably happen. But I hope that's not
It'll
it.
come and slap you across
But
the
if that's
face,
what
right?
God wants, I would be up for that. My husband and I both have a real passion we both love music, and we just feel like, this isn't anything new, but we just feel like music brings people together. And we have a real heart for philanthropy, like just helping be a part of organizations that are doing great work on the earth now. And so we sort of have this dream. We've sort of semi-launched it 5 years ago, where we host concerts for good. It's nothing new. People are doing it all over the world, but in our own way. And so we dream about growing that platform together, if that's what God wants. We're hoping that as the kids start getting older, that's something that we can. It's fun to live so close to Nashville, to Music City, because you have a lot of opportunity to get great artists, musicians, not even just in Nashville, all throughout the state. So we've done a few of those and raised some great funds for great causes, and so that's something we're really hoping we can do on a bigger level as time goes by. That's probably the main thing. I would love to travel and see more of the world, and I don't want to just go on vacations and have fun. I want to do something with the travel too. So I don't know what that looks like, whether that's some mission work or I don't know, but definitely more than just travel, like a purposeful mission. So I'm hoping as my kids start growing, God will make those things more clear.
Yeah.
What that's supposed to look like.
And where they go in life might answer some of that for you.
It's all such a mystery right now. And walking through with an almost 18-year-old, she's like, "Mom, what is my life going to look like?" I'm like, "It's such an adventure. You don't know."
That's what I loved. I love that unknown. Like
yeah.
I'm excited for my future, and my kids' future. I love that you have that opportunity. That's what nowadays kids just worry about having everything so perfect from the beginning. And I said, I used to have a little Pontiac Sunfire car that my dad had rebuilt for me when I turned 16. And we live in our little small town, and I would drive around everywhere and just look at little houses, not new houses, little old houses that hadn't been cared for in years, and think, wonder which one of these I'll live in one day. I love just being a dreamer and, just taking it all in the unknown. And I'm still like that. That's not changed.
I'm the same way,
At
girl.
44, I love just, driving around and seeing or where we would be with our kids one day, or where their lives are going to take them, And I think it's important that you just know that and embrace it while you're there. Like that's what's so fun, is that we don't know from day to day.
Yeah, it's every day is just a trust, and just walk out each day. And that's what I keep trying to tell my daughter, is like, you don't have to know everything right now. Your path, God will lead you, and your path will lead you.
He'll get us up. Yeah, he gets us through the valleys, and he walks us up to the peaks. He does.
Yes.
He's with us through every bit of it. Do you have any last minute advice that you would want to give younger listeners that would be listening, maybe just starting their families and
I think, like what I said earlier about when you're making these big choices in your life, just like really think through like the long term, like because just know, like I feel like, and I'm never hard on my parents about this, but I feel like no one really warned me. That I thought, especially as a Christian, I thought if I kind of followed all the rules, that like life would be really good. And for a long time, it sort of was that way for me. And so I wish that more people had told me, don't expect everything to be perfect.
shared things like this with you.
Yes, I wish there had been, and I'm grateful, because not everyone is born into that. A lot of people start suffering really, really young. That's the world. That's the reality of most of the world, actually. So it almost feels silly to even say that, but I'm just being honest. In my case, I didn't know that kind of suffering or that kind of disappointment until I was older. And so it's not to be like a Debbie Downer. It's just know that things are coming that will be hard, and make choices the best you can, with friendships and relationships, or maybe a marriage partner that you think that person is equally committed, to walk with you. You can't always bank on that, though. You don't know what the future holds, but I think just knowing that there's going to be great days and there'll be really hard days, and being okay with all of them, no matter what. And I mean, anything could hit any of us at any time. And, I just think staying true to yourself. And of course, as a Christian, believing that, knowing the fact that God will not leave you no matter what, I had to be bold about my faith because it's the only thing that's gotten me through some of those really hard seasons. It's hard for me to imagine how people don't have a faith, because it is the only thing that I really had to hold on to, and I felt like everything was crumbling. And I now have to know that my kids have their own lives ahead of them, and I don't know what they will face or endure. So, but I think rejoicing in those up seasons and knowing like this is a good time, and then when there's a low one, there's a low one.
And being there for the others when they're in their low one.
Yes, and being like aware. And we're living in a very self-centered culture now. And I think you have to be really like cognizant that the world does not revolve around you. That there are people hurting, there are things happening. And so I'm always trying to be like, okay, don't forget, like there's a whole world going on. People have hard things going on. We're also fed a lot of information. And so kind of taking a step back and just looking into your own world and your own community and making sure that you're cognizant of people's pain or rejoicing with them. You're not forgetting, because it's like the people that matter. It's really the people that matter. And, my family jokes me about me wanting to know the world, but really you were born into the world you were born into. And these are the people that you know. And so I met you for a reason. God knew we would have this interaction in this opportunity, and you would open up this platform so I could share my story. He knew all that would happen to me so I could share my story and try to encourage people. And so I think just really like, whatever your story ends up being, like being bold and brave to share it and to identify with people.
Right. I feel the same way. Roll with the punches as they come, and embrace them when you're in the good times. Don't be scared to enjoy it and laugh and enjoy it. But you've got to have something that's got a firm foundation. You've got to. Or you're just going to continue to crash. And in our home, it is God also. I mean, if we hadn't had him through so many things, I don't know how we would have survived either. And looking back, it's picture perfect. But you do have all those, like you said, those times that's tough, and he's been the foundation for every bit of it. And I love how he does use people. Like the older I get, the more I see, like we were talking about earlier, it is relationships. It's people. That is what you love. That's what you hang on to. That's what's going to make a difference. It's not the stuff.
It's really what we were created for, was to be in community with God and with each other. And so it is the most important thing.
In an earlier podcast that I've put out, we talked about this also, about trying to stay with your eyes open and looking for those people that God's putting in your path.
Yes.
That is a relationship that maybe they're there for that season, and there's different friendships for different seasons of life, for sure. And you and I've talked about that too. As you get a little bit older, you have to tighten your circle sometimes.
Yes.
And
my husband's about to turn 50, and when he turned 40, we never had a birthday party because the list had like 620 people on it, and I was like, this is overwhelming me. We're not doing anything. Now I can only think of 60. It's amazing what a decade will do when you realize, I don't have to have all these people in my life. I think I'm going to go for the ones that are my truest.
That's right. The ones that help.
Not that we don't love them all. It's just, like the real.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what you have to do, for sure. And prioritize.
Yes.
That's the best thing.
We only have so much time too, and
right.
and we only have so much energy we can give. So you can get real used up real quick if you try to overextend yourself all the time. And I am the worst at it.
Me too, girl.
Believe me.
In my 30s, I spent a lot of wasted energy that, looking back, things that were not so important, I felt like was so important. I felt like I gave a shower. I mean, constantly I was hosting events, and I loved it. I loved doing it for them. But as my children got older, I realized I was going to sacrifice something else when I'm doing that. And that was time from them. So from then on, it was...
Yeah, for me in my 30s, it was being highly relational. It was trying to make sure everyone loved me, and making sure that, because I love people so much, I really love people so much that I wanted everyone to love me. And then when people didn't love me, it was heartbreaking to me. And so really going deep with that and being like, okay, that's not necessary. Not everybody is going to love me, and that's okay.
And it's okay.
So
yeah, it's definitely
I feel so much freer now in my 40s. It's like, I am who I am, and I'm going to love you regardless, but it doesn't mean we have to be BFFs,
Right.
So. I've grown up a lot.
And our kids become our BFFs. So
Right,
we'd
yeah.
rather
And
spend some
hopefully
more
your
time with
husband.
them.
Yes.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right. Thank you so much for coming on
Oh,
here today.
It's been an honor and a delight. Thank you so much for having me. You're so good at this.
I really appreciate you coming on here. And hopefully we're going to get Jonathan on here.
Oh, he would love it. He
There'll
would
be lots of giggling.
yeah, lots of giggling. He's a hot mess, but he's adorable. Yes.
He is one that adores his wife like my husband.
His-
Date nights are their favorite things.
He is very precious and very special. And I hate to this day, and I'll just say it again, honey, that I made you work so hard, but it worked out. So